Chapter number 4 of 11th standard textbook, Elasticity of Demand. We have already studied what demand is. Now we are going to study what does elasticity of demand refers to. Let us study the definition of elasticity of demand. Professor Marshall introduced the concept of price elasticity of demand. Explain the degree of responsiveness of demand for a commodity to a given change in price. When there is a change in price and according to that there is a degree of responsiveness of demand. When there is a change in price, then you have a degree of responsiveness of demand, right? Because of the change in price. That degree of responsiveness means you are responding to the change in price. Now to what degree you are responding to change in price, that you study under elasticity of demand. So elasticity of demand means price elasticity of demand, which means the degree of responsiveness of demand for a commodity to a given change in the price. Elasticity of demand shows how much expansion or contraction of demand takes place due to fall or rise in price. If there is an expansion of demand or contraction of demand, how much change is there because of that due to fall or rise in prices. Elasticity of demand is defined as the proportionate change in the quantity demanded of a commodity as a result of its proportionate change in its price. You have a formula also, or you can say symbolically it means you have to study this way: small e and small d. This means elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand is denoted as small ed equals to, you have a formula, change in quantity demanded, right? Or change in demand upon, you have demand divided by price, change in price upon price. Alright, or you can also write that change in demand upon demand into price upon change in price. So if you multiply, the denominator becomes the numerator becomes the denominator. So this is the formula for, you have the elasticity of demand. D, or you can also write as QD, that is the quantity demanded. So change in quantity demanded upon quantity demanded multiplied by price upon change in price. Alright, or you can also write it as proportionate change in quantity demanded upon proportionate change in price. That is the formula for your elasticity of demand, that is small ed, right? Or you can also write it as finally as ed equals to, if you write in capital, percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price. Alright, either this, if you have given all the things, or either this, percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price will give you the formula for elasticity of demand. Alright, next is we will study types of elasticity of demand. Second is types of elasticity of demand. You have price, income and cross elasticity. Price elasticity of demand. Income elasticity. The cross elasticity, right? You have three types of demand categories. You have price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand and cross elasticity of demand. First we will study the price elasticity of demand. elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand is generally known as elasticity of demand, that shows how much expansion and contraction takes place due to fall or rise in price. In price elasticity, you will study how will the demand change because of, or will the demand there will be an expansion of demand or contraction of demand due to the rise or fall in prices. Elasticity of demand is a proportionate change in quantity demanded upon proportionate change in the price. You can also write it as ED equals to percentage change in demand upon percentage change in the price. Percentage or proportionate change in demand upon proportionate change in price. There is an inverse relationship between price and demanded quantity. The value of price elasticity will always have a negative sign. Price elasticity will always have a negative sign because there is an inverse relationship between the demand and the price. Types of price elasticity. You have different types of price elasticity. You have unitary price elastic demand, relative inelastic, perfectly inelastic, relatively inelastic, and perfectly elastic. Alright, so there are 5 kinds of price elasticity of demand, which we will deal after we study all the different types of demand. We have studied price elasticity. Now we will study the income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand is, you represent it as EY. Y is income and E is elasticity. Income elasticity. As you write ED, that is price elasticity of demand, right? This is demand elasticity. You will study here income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand is the proportionate change in the quantity demanded to a given change in consumers' income. We will see the proportionate change in demand upon the proportionate change in income of the consumer. Earlier when we studied the price elasticity, it was demand upon price, that is the percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price. But you have to drop down the price factor, you have the income factor. Now we will study how the income is rising or falling, and that is affecting the demand for a particular commodity. Right, under this you will study the positive income elasticity, and you have the negative income elasticity and zero income elasticity. Right, you have one means by positive income elasticity. The value of income elasticity is generally positive, and increase in income leads to increase in the demand. Right, positive income elasticity means if income is rising, then definitely the demand will also increase. Alright, for a commodity, there is a direct relationship between income and quantity demanded. For most commodities, income elasticity of demand is positive. These commodities are called normal goods. Normal goods means if you are buying the goods continuously and you find them good, then definitely if your income is increasing, the demand for those goods will also increase. A positive income elasticity may be more than income when a change in income brings about a more proportionate change in demand, but in the same direction. Change in income means more than proportionate change in demand. Income is increasing. See, income is increasing, but at a faster rate than demand. It is, assume it is 1, it is more than 1. It increases but faster than demand. Then you have equal to 1. Right, you have the equal, under this you have elasticity is income is more than your demand. Next situation could be it is equal to your demand. Alright, change in brings a similar change, same proportion, the demand and the income are increasing, and there could be less than proportionate change. income is increasing there, but demand is increasing more than the income. See, in all these three conditions, income and demand both are increasing, but here income increases more than the demand. Here income and demand are equal, and here income is increasing but at a lesser rate than demand. So demand and income both are increasing in all the three conditions. This is positive income elasticity. Next is negative income elasticity. I'm using the short form, say negative income elasticity. For some goods, the income elasticity of demand is negative, especially for inferior goods. Inferior goods means you have, suppose you are using, because your income is low, you are using some inferior kind of grains at your place or very low quality of food material. But as your income increases, you stop using those goods and you switch on to the superior quality goods. So negative income elasticity is applicable only to the inferior goods when your income is increasing but the demand for those goods don't increase, but in case they decrease. So that is known as the negative income elasticity. Third is zero income elasticity. Zero income elasticity, it takes place when a change in income does not have any change in the demand for a commodity. The demand remains the same. See, if your income increases, if suppose you are consuming 1 kg of salt every month, you have many people in your family, and accordingly you have your consumption of salt is 1 kg. Suppose your income increases, you will not start eating more of the salt, right? So this means zero. Because of the change in income, there is no change in the demand. So that is known as income. When the demand remains stable, even if the income increases or decreases, the elasticity is zero. Similarly, when the income falls down, you will not consume less of the salt. That will remain stable. So that is again zero income elasticity. First is price, second is income, third we will study is cross elasticity of demand. Is cross elasticity of demand is the proportionate change in the quantity demanded to a given change in the price of its substitutes. So cross ED, as you write it as cross ED, you write it as this way, that is proportionate change in the quantity. See, proportionate change in the quantity demand of X and change in the price of Y. Because there is a change in the demand of X, the price of Y, because there is a price, suppose you are consuming, there are two, T1 and T2. There are two brands of tea. Alright, there are two brands of tea, T1 and T2. Because the prices of T2 have fallen, or suppose you say because of the prices of T2 have increased, the demand for T1 increases. Alright, because of the change in prices of one, there will be a change in demand of the other. So that is cross, is you are using basically the funda of substitutes. Right? So this is how you study the change in the demand of X will lead, that is the change in the price of Y will lead to the change in the demand of commodity X. You have the positive income elasticity, you have the negative income elasticity, and you have the zero cross elasticity. Right? Next is you have the types of price elasticity of demand. Five types of elasticity of demand. First is unitary elastic demand. Alright, unitary elastic demand, when you know your elasticity of demand equals to 1. That is known as unitary, means 1. Elasticity of demand equals to 1. That means percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price equals to 1. Right? percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price equals to 1. Alright, this is known as unitary elastic demand. How you represent it? That is, you have how you will explain this through the diagram. You have this is the demand, this is the demand graph, and suppose you say the prices have increased. This is your price O, Y, X. This is quantity demanded. So this was earlier. Now prices have increased from P to P1. Alright. Now you see the demand has decreased from Q to Q1. Can you see the distance from P to P1 and Q to Q1 is almost equal? Alright. This is this much of patch, and even this patch is same. So demand, if there is a change of price in 10 units, then definitely the change in demand will always also be 10. Alright, so this is how you express your price and demand in the unitary elastic demand. Next you have the relative elastic demand. This is unitary elastic, you will have relative elastic demand. Elastic demand, when a change in price of a commodity brings about more than proportionate change in demand. Alright, means you have ED equals to percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price is greater than 1. Alright, when there is a change in price of a commodity brings about more than proportionate change in demand, means change in price is less, but because of that little less change in price, there is a huge change in the demand. It is called relatively elastic. For instance, 10% rise in price of a commodity leads to 20% fall in the demand. This is how you explain it. Now how you will explain it diagrammatically, let's see. This is Y, this is X. Suppose this is P, this is quantity demanded Q. Now you see, if the prices rise, price have rise from P to P1, and you see Q to Q1. Can you see the difference? From P to P1, this is the patch, and from Q to Q1, this is the patch. So because of the rise in price, alright, the quantity demanded has lessened, so there is a little increase in price, but the quantity demanded is fallen at a greater level. That is known as relatively elastic demand, right? Next is relatively inelastic demand. Relatively inelastic demand, when a change in price of a commodity brings about less than proportionate change in demand. Earlier it was a little change in price, but there is a more change in demand. Now in relatively inelastic demand, inelastic means something that cannot be stretched, right? So demand will not have much of change, remember, like that. Of a commodity brings about less than proportionate change in the demand for the commodity. It is called relatively inelastic demand. For instance, 10% rise in price leads to 5% fall in the commodity. So ED, that is percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price, is less than 1. Right, equals to less than 1. Now you have to explain that diagrammatically also. This is O, Y, X, and you have to draw demand. This is P, Q. Now you see there is a little change in price, right? And there is a little change in demand. See, change in price is more. You see the gap? Change in price is from P to P1. Price has fallen down, but you see from Q to Q1 the gap is little less. So price change is more, but that price change is not affecting the demand a lot. That means that is known as inelastic demand. Fourth is you have perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly or infinite elastic demand, that is you will have when a slight change in the price brings about infinite change in demand. Perfectly elastic means it is very much elastic. It can be changed to a larger distance. So when there is a little change in the price and there is infinite, you cannot measure, change in the demand of the commodity is known as perfectly elastic demand. For instance, 10% rise in price may lead to infinite fall in demand. So that is to percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in the price equals to infinite, right? You just cannot measure it is that much. Now if you explain it diagrammatically, it is O Y X. This is demand, this is price. Now you see what difference you have seen here. ED equals to infinite. There is a change in demand from OP is the price. Now because of that the demand has so much elastic it has become that you just cannot measure where the demand is going. So this is perfectly elastic demand. Last is perfectly inelastic demand. Change in the price is effect on the inelastic means that the price keeps on changing, but there is, you will see the demand has no change. Quantity demand of the commodity, it is no effect on the quantity demanded. In the earlier case the quantity demanded would have been changed infinitely, but here the quantity demanded does not change. For instance, 10% rise in price that will not affect the quantity demanded. So it will be ED equals to percentage change in the quantity demanded upon percentage change in the price equals to 0. Means there is no change in the quantity demanded. Let's see the diagram. Y, X, and this is the demand, right? This is the demand and you will see price. Price is OP, the demand remains the same. The price rises from OP to OP1, again the demand remains the same. There is no change in the quantity demanded. So even the price changes, there is no change in the demand of the commodity. These were the 5 types of income elasticities, right? Next is methods of measuring price elasticity. You have 3 methods of measuring. First we will deal with percentage or proportional method. Percentage method or proportionate method. This method measures price elasticity of demand when there is small change in price. Alright, we use this method only when there is a small change in price. This method is used to measure elasticity of demand from a demand schedule. So this is, again you have ED equals to, you have the formula as we have already done, right? ED equals to change ED equals to change in the quantity demanded upon demand into price upon change in price. This is how you have the percentage method given to you. You will have certain formulas that you have. You have this one as the change, right? So here elasticity demand is relatively inelastic. Second method that you will study is the geometrical or point method. Marshall suggested point method to measure the price elasticity on the demand curve. You have linear or straight line demand curve, then you have non-linear demand curve. These are the two types of the demand curves that you study under geometrical method. You have first straight line or linear demand curve. Suppose this is you explain, right? And you have O, Y, X, right? Now you have this is quantity demanded and this is the price you place it, right? You have the price of elasticity of demand is lower part of the demand curve upon upper part of the demand curve. That is PA if you have upon PB. This is you mark it as A and this you mark it as B. It is PA, that is PA upon PB, the lower part. The price elasticity of demand at the midpoint of P is equal to 1 or equal this, right? Equal to 1 or equity. ED is 0 at point B and infinity at point A. Here ED is infinity, here ED is 1, here ED is 0. This is how you are explaining things, right? On any point between A and P it is greater, A and P it is greater. Any point, anywhere here ED is greater than 1 and any point here ED is less than 1, right? This is how you explain it. Non-linear also you will have the same way. You have a tangent one. Third, you have the total outlay method or total expenditure method. This is very important. According to this method, the elasticity of demand is measured on the basis of expenditure incurred when the price of the commodity changes. If the total expenditure, that is expenditure incurred in when the price changes. If the total expenditure in response to a rise or fall in price remains the same, it is elasticity, it is said to be unitary. If there is a price change, first is if the total expenditure in response to rise or fall is same. If there is a price either rising or falling but expenditure remains same, alright, then your ED equals to 1. This is condition 1, right? Second condition is if the total outlay increases with a rise in price. If the price is increasing and expenditure also rises and decreases with the fall in price and vice versa. If the price falls, expenditure also falls, the elasticity is said to be less than unity elasticity. That is, ED is less than 1. This is the second condition. Third condition you have, if the total outlay increases with a fall in price, right? If there is a price fall and expenditure rises, right? Total outlay or expenditure increases with the fall in price and decreases with the rise in price. That is vice versa. Here they are going in the same direction. That is, here it is, first case, the price is either rising or falling, but expenditure remains the same. ED is 1. Price is rising, expenditure falling, or price is falling, expenditure also falling. So ED is less than 1. Here price rise, expenditure fall, or price rises, expenditure falls. Either of the condition, right? ED is more than 1. This is how you study the total outlay method. Alright. Now we will have the concept of arc elasticity and factors influence elasticity of demand. First we will do the factors that influence the elasticity of demand. Alright. There are several factors that influence. First is the nature of commodity. To be relatively elastic for luxuries. If the nature of the commodity, if you are dealing in luxuries and all, even there is a change in price, it will not going to influence anything like that on the demand. So but if there is a small change of price in the food grains that you are producing, definitely your demand will react accordingly. So nature is very important. Second is availability of substitutes. The larger the number of substitutes, the greater would be the elasticity. Even if there is a change in price and there are many substitutes available, you will definitely shift on to the other. But if there are less substitutes, the price increase, keep on increasing, then also you have to purchase the same commodity. Third is you have the habits and income. Also see, because if there is a change in the price, but if you're habitual to that commodity, then definitely you will not shift or you will not change your demand. And similarly it goes with income also. If income, you have a very strong source of income and a very continuous source of income, the demand will also, you will have react accordingly. Level of price and degree of change. A small change would not induce any change in demand of a product with a very high price or very low price. For instance, if the price of the car decreases by a small margin, the demand would remain the same. So it depends the level of price and the degree of change in the demand. Then postponement of consumption. The demand is elastic, could postpone the consumption of goods. If the demand is elastic, there are certain goods which you can't avoid, you cannot postpone their consumption, but so their demand, if the demand is elastic, you can postpone it, but the demand is inelastic, means you have to consume, you cannot postpone their consumption. Then you have the complementary goods. When goods is linked with the other goods demand, it would be done accordingly. Like if you buy a pen, definitely either you will require a refill, or if it's a gel pen, you will need the ink to be filled in. So it all depends. If the prices or the demand of those goods is elastic, the demand of the complementary goods would also be reacting the same manner. Next we will do is importance of price elasticity of demand. First important point is price fixation. The knowledge of the price elasticity of demand enables the businessman to fix the price. If you know you are producing the goods which are very inelastic, means even if you change the price, increase, decrease, the demand will not increase, then you can definitely always increase the prices, because the people will consume the commodity whatsoever. If the elasticity of demand is relatively elastic, the producer cannot fix a higher price. If it is elastic, means they can shift on or they can postpone the consumption. If it is elastic, then definitely you cannot put or fix a very high price for the commodity. Next is collective bargaining. The knowledge of price price elasticity of demand is helpful to trade unions in collective bargaining in respect of wage fixation and other incentives. They may ask the management to pay higher wages to the workers for changing the price policy of the product. So you have, if the demand for the company's product is inelastic, right? It will not change. Whatever the prices are, they may suggest to management to increase the prices, and definitely if the prices increase, there will be high profits and they will get more share in the profits. Next is formulation of the tax policy. The central and state governments use the knowledge of price elasticity of demand to frame a tax policy relating to goods and services. The government may increase the taxes on the produced goods which are inelastic. See, government has to increase its income, so it may increases the taxes on the goods which are inelastic, which carry an inelastic demand, because people will buy the goods if they carry an inelastic demand, even if the taxes increase. So if the government wants to have more income, they can increase the taxes on the inelastic goods. Formulation of foreign trade policy. So the government use the price elasticity of demand for framing the foreign trade policies. The foreign trade policies may encourage you. See, if you even have to have the exports and the imports, if it is the good carry an elastic demand, very inelastic, that means you have to have the indigenous satisfaction. If it is elastic, then definitely you may export it and get the foreign currency. Next, factor pricing. Of price elasticity of demand to fix the prices of the factor of production. If demand is relatively inelastic, then you will have a higher price, and then definitely you can get, if the demand is inelastic, you will price it high because people will buy even if you set a higher price. If you set a higher price, people will buy and you will get more profits. If you have more profits, you can get the best of the factor of production, best labor on best land. You can produce the goods, you can get more interest, expand your business, and you will earn more profits. Last is promotion. Knowledge of price elasticity of demand is useful to businessmen in promoting their goods. They may not spend on promotion of products whose demand is inelastic. See, even if the demand is inelastic, means people will buy. So you don't need to promote or advertise those goods, because the consumers will buy the product even if you set a higher price. Even if you don't promote, they will come and buy the product. So if your good has a very elastic demand, then you need to have a good promotion policy for your company. So that is the importance of price elasticity of the demand. Last is you have the arc elasticity. Concept of arc elasticity of demand. What is arc elasticity? It is an average elasticity of demand. Arc elasticity of demand is defined as the measure of average responsiveness of demand to price change. We have done price changes and what is the degree of responsiveness of demand. That we studied on the price elasticity, but here we will study the average responsiveness. Another word that comes here will be average responsiveness. If you add this average word, it becomes the arc elasticity of demand. How? Exhibited by demand curve over some definite stretch. Arc elasticity is measured by taking the average quantity instead of the original price and original demand. We take the price and the demand, but we will not take exact price and or accurate price and accurate demand, but we will take, or the original price or original demand, but we will take the average quantity and average demand. How you have arc demand? Formula is arc elasticity of demand is Q1 plus Q2 upon 2, Q1 plus Q2 upon 2 plus P1 plus P2 upon 2. How this is? It is Q1 is the original quantity demanded, Q2 is the new quantity demanded, P1 is the original price, and P2 is the new price. So this is how you study the arc ED, or the arc elasticity of demand. This is the formula for the arc elasticity of demand.